When students start studying for the ITC exam, and it's still a while away, they often they always feel like they need to start by revising theory because it's so much work, and it's such a lot of complex work and technical stuff. But with the limited time that they have, they often ask us, how should they get through all of this work? So Yvonne, how do they, or where do they start, and how do they get through all the theory?
It's such a good question, and it is something that we get from every student ever. And the course that we've designed, I think, is specifically intended to address this fear and this concern. And I think the starting point has to be, what do you know at the moment, genuinely? Like, what do you genuinely know at the moment? And most importantly, are you able to get marks for anything you know? Because any knowledge you have is useless if you can't get marks for it. So if you know something but you can't use it, it's useless. Yeah, and I think that's so important for students to understand, because students kind of feel like, if I know 80% of my stuff, then I'll at least get 50% of the marks. Like, there's some magic connection between knowing and getting marks. If I know 80% of my stuff, then somehow I'm magically going to get marks for that. But the problem is, if you know 30% of your stuff, but you can't get 30% of the marks, then something's wrong. And I think that's so important to understand, because in exams and in your ITC, the examiner is expecting you to use knowledge. So they don't care that you can recite stuff and that you know stuff, because all these books are on your desk. So they're going, you've got the stuff, like, you've got the knowledge, you've got the FRS, but what can you do with it? So, our focus for students is, can you use any knowledge you have? Because if you can't use the 30% of knowledge that you currently have, then what makes you think that you'll be able to use the 80% of knowledge when you get it? And I think that's a huge shift. So I really encourage students to pay attention to that. Like, if you can't use 30% of your knowledge, you won't be able to use 80% of your knowledge. So that's a massive, massive mind shift. They're not asking you to recite the standard. They're not asking you to list stuff. They're not asking you to define stuff. They're not asking you to recite the recognition criteria. They're asking you to use any knowledge that you've got. So our starting point with students is to go, let's start off by identifying what basic knowledge do you already have, and is that enough to pass? So we've incorporated a tool into our ITC course right at the beginning, which is designed to assess how much basic knowledge do you have for each question that you do, and would that be enough to pass? So if you were able to get marks for everything you currently do know, would you be able to pass? That's really, really important. So we've included that tool, which helps you assess, what is it that I actually know compared to what is it that I'm able to get marks for. And in every single case that we work with, there's a massive gap between what people say, yeah, but Yvonne, I do know X% of the stuff. And I go, great, so what did you get marks for? And it's this percent of stuff. So, like, in your experience, Francois, on the course, what's the gap between what students know versus what they're able to use?
It's fascinating. When I first started giving feedback to our students, it's almost every single time I can't think of an example where they didn't have enough knowledge to pass the exam. Because remember, especially the discussion questions, that's where they really struggle. And there's a lot of discussion in the ITC papers. And we're doing real ITC papers in these tasks. And in the discussion, there's usually your available marks, and there is the maximum marks. So if the question is, say, out of 14 marks, there might be 20 or 25 marks available. So students need to identify the basic marks out of the 25 available, and then see how much of those they scored to get the maximum of 14 marks. And almost in every single case, they identified more than enough basic marks to score full marks in the question. So if they scored all the marks that they themselves identified as basic, which means they know it. When they look at it, they know, oh yes, I can't believe I didn't say this. So that's the basic marks. So it means they should be able to get very close to 80 or 100% in many of the questions. There are some where they would have scored less, but often I found when I looked at the averages, about 60% of the marks are basic marks, and are 60% of the available marks.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how few of those marks they convert. So, and that means if they have to go and fix this, because the students tell me they have to fill in a form and they have to tell us what is the challenges, and many of almost all of them says they need more theory, they don't know enough, but yet they identify most of the marks as basic. So how do they fix this? How do they? Because if they go back to theory, they'll get the same basic marks. They might have more basic marks, but they're still only scoring a small percentage of the marks that of the stuff that they already know. So how do we fix this going forward? Then?
You used a really good word there that we focus on in the course, and that's converting, which is converting knowledge to marks. And I have exactly the same experience as you. Is every single student that I speak to, I have to work really hard to force them to do a question, because they're like, no, Yvonne, I don't know enough. I don't know enough. I don't know enough. I don't know enough. I'm not going to pass that. And I go, I don't care how you feel. I don't care what you're thinking. I don't care how you do the damn question. And whatever question we throw at them, when we get them to apply this tool, they come back and go, actually, if I look at the mark plan, there's about 60% of the marks that I knew. Okay, and that's crucial. Next question, did you convert that knowledge to marks? Did you get those marks that you identified as basic? I don't care what I think is basic. I don't care what Francois thinks is basic. What do you know as basic? Did you get the marks that you look at on the mark plan and go, oh, but you want to know that? Oh, but okay, great. Did you get the marks for it? And every time the answer is no. It's generally around 30%. They got 30% of the marks, but they know 60% of the stuff. So that's like an entire 30% gap that they're not converting. So my question to them and what you're saying is the answer is not to go back to the knowledge, because you already know it. You can't know it more than you already know it, because you know it. The problem is you can't use it. And so our course and all the rest of the tasks in the course are designed to help you identify, so what is the problem? If you do know it and you're looking and go, but Yvonne, I know that point. Sweet. Why didn't you get the mark for that point? That's not a knowledge issue, because you know. You're like, yeah, I recognize that. Why? Well, you didn't think about it, you didn't connect it, you didn't communicate it properly, you didn't reference, or whatever the case is. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could be the problem. And the rest of the course is designed to say, let's identify how you convert any knowledge you have into marks. And as you do that, you're still gathering knowledge. It's not like we ignore knowledge and go, well, you only ever need like 30% of knowledge. That's not what we're saying. You're still working on the knowledge, but in every single case of every student I've ever dealt with, there is like a 30% gap between what they know and what they're able to get marks for. And I don't care about the other knowledge that you don't have. I don't care about that. If you're not able to convert the knowledge that you have to marks, then what makes you think you're going to convert the knowledge that you don't have to marks? Like, let me go and revise, Yvonne, so I can learn extra 30% of the stuff, but you're not going to get marks for that stuff either. So what's the point? If you can only convert 30% of your knowledge, you're going to need like 150% of the knowledge in order to actually pass the question, which is ridiculous. So I think for students from here, like, our course is designed to help you use the knowledge that you have. And every single student comes in going, I don't know enough to pass. And every single one of them turns out they do know much more than they think they know, but the problem is they're not getting marks for it. And we can prove it. And we do prove it every single day. Yeah. Every day. And for every student out there, it is a trial to get you to start that first question. You will never start. Every single one of them, no, Yvonne, I don't know enough. All your other students are fine. Me personally, I haven't studied for 6 months. I haven't studied for a year. I haven't touched the stuff. Every one of them has their own little excuses about why they can't do a question yet. And every single time, we find a 20 to 30% gap between what they know and what they're able to get marks for.
I think that the nice thing, and listening to you now, with the way our course is structured and the task and how we help you convert those marks, help the communication, the application, the real things that are missing. The alternative is to go and study more theory because you feel like you don't know enough. And where do you end up then? You're just going to end up in the same place. Or what I see often, and we still struggle students to get started, but as soon as they start moving through the tasks, is you get paralyzed because you just procrastinate. You just feel overwhelmed because you just see this 6 pages case study and you feel you don't know enough and you just put it off. And I think that is really a nice thing about the tasks, is to just get going and get to the root of the problem.
Absolutely. And to give you the tool, you the tool to assess for yourself that whatever question you're doing, whatever studying you're doing, always use the tool to identify the gap between what you know and what you're able to convert into marks for yourself. You don't need me, and you don't need, we don't need you, and you don't need me to do that. Once you understand how the tool works.
Yeah, once you understand this process, you can apply this to any question that you have, and from there you
always identify, like, do I genuinely have enough knowledge to pass? Like, I want you to prove that to me. If you tell me you don't have enough knowledge to pass, my starting point is like, prove it. I'm an auditing lecturer, like, evidence. I want to prove it. Prove it. Do not tell me, because you're going to go back to the default of I don't know enough. I don't know enough. I don't know enough. You're going to go back to every single.
And I have to admit, I haven't found any of our students that could prove in any of the questions that they didn't have enough knowledge. There are some where they maybe know a little bit less, but just by looking at the solution and learning from the experience, they could have passed that question. More theory wouldn't have resulted in a pass.
My first advice has never been, you need to go back and revise your knowledge. Never, ever, ever, ever. Even if the student only knows 40%, they're only getting 20%. So I'm still saying, let's convert the other 20% to marks first. Then we'll go work on the stuff that you don't know. But until you're able to convert knowledge to marks, I'm not interested in you gathering more knowledge, because all you're doing is shoving it in a cupboard somewhere and you don't even know what to do with it. I'm not interested in you shoving it in a cupboard. I want to know that you can work with it. So the course is designed to help you work with any knowledge that you have. And the starting point has to be, what do you currently know? And it's terrifying to find that out. We don't really want to know, which is why students struggle so much to get started. They're like, no, Yvonne, no. But I promise you that's where you have to begin.
Cool. Well, thank you, Yvonne. And if you want to find out more, please contact us and ask if you have any questions about the course.